This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
دعت اللجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر المجتمع الدولي
The International Committee of the Red Cross called on the international community to increase efforts to investigate the fate of hundreds of thousands of people who are missing throughout the world due to armed conflicts or other forms of violence. The committee says that Iraq is a country where it is difficult to find out the exact fate of the missing, whose numbers range between 375,000 and 1 million.
صرخة جديدة من اللجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر لكشف مصير.
Yet another arena for the International Committee of the Red Cross to discover the fate of hundreds of thousands of missing persons. Tragedies are repeated in many countries throughout the world and are represented by those who are missing and their families and whose loved ones remain among the unknown. The International Committee's Hidden Tragedy Report described Iraq as a painful front where it is very difficult to learn the fate of the missing persons. The number of missing people are estimated to equal 500,000 as a result of a series of conflicts starting with the war against Iran and continuing with the American invasion in 2003 and the bloody events that followed. The International Committee's report states that the missing people in Iraq may have been captured or kidnapped, or they may have been killed and buried, and their families have not been able to identify the bodies due to the difficult security conditions. In December 2006, the UN General Assembly passed international agreements regarding missing persons and their families, declaring the right of everyone to be protected against forced disappearances and considering such a practice a crime against humanity. However, in the heat of wars and conflicts, such principles are rarely considered priorities. In Srebrenica, one of the hubs of the armed conflicts in the 20th century, whose tragedies are still remembered, nearly 20,000 people remain missing in Bosnia-Herzegovina, according to the International Red Cross Committee. This despite the fact that 12 years have passed since the end of that war.
أهلا بكم من جديد. بتكتم شديد وبعيدا عن ضوء.
Away from the spotlight, Khartoum hosted a Fateh delegation led by Azam al-Ahmad and a special envoy for the Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas. This news comes in the context of the ongoing Arab mediation aimed at solving the political crisis between Hamas and Fateh. It also comes just days after Khalid Mashal, the head of the Hamas political office, visited Khartoum. Meanwhile, the Palestinian president denied that he received any initiative from Hamas to resume talks between the two movements. Talks between Fateh and Hamas were suspended after Hamas seized control of the Gaza Strip.
A
few days after the head of the Hamas political office, Khalid Mashal, held talks with Sudanese officials, a Fateh delegation representing the other side of the Palestinian political equation arrived in Khartoum. At the top of the delegation was Azam al-Ahmad, head of the Fateh bloc at the Palestinian Legislative Council. Al-Ahmad held a series of talks with senior Sudanese officials, including President Omar al-Bashir. This news comes in the context of the ongoing Sudanese efforts to bring Hamas and Fateh back to the bargaining table in order to help end the political stalemate and spare the Palestinians the agony of division. The head of the Fateh delegation described the talks as quiet and away from the spotlight.
وهي جهود قال رئيس وفد فتح أنها تمضي بهدوء بعيدا عن الأضواء.
السودان يتحرك منذ فترة حتى قبل وصولنا.
Sudan has mobilized diplomatic efforts even before our arrival in Khartoum. Our visit comes in the context of this Sudanese gesture, which was launched in consultation with us. Sudan continues to make contact with all Palestinian sides in order to bridge the gap and strengthen the Palestinian national unity.
الوحدة الوطنية الفلسطينية.
الخرطوم والتي تتمتع بعلاقات ممتازة مع فتح
Khartoum, which played a similar role in the mid-90s due to its unique relationship with both Hamas and Fateh, praised the talks. However, Sudanese officials expressed reservations and refused to reveal the details of the talks. They said that the talks are at the preliminary stage, where Khartoum listened to both Hamas and Fateh regarding their views on the current situation in Palestine.
تجاه الأوضاع في فلسطين.
We don't have a specific initiative. However, we have drafted requests and appeals. A request was made by the President and another was made by the Arab parliaments and leaders who care about the Palestinian plight. We will continue to mobilize efforts in order to change the current situation, which doesn't please any Arab citizen or Muslim. This is what we are trying to do at this stage.
Khartoum advised the Fateh delegation that it is willing to sponsor a national dialogue for all Palestinian factions. It also urged all sides to offer concessions at the minimum level in order to pave the way for this proposed meeting.
We demand all Palestinian sides offer concessions at the minimum level in order to help end the stalemate which only serves the enemy. Any future work or gathering for the sake of holding a conference on the Palestinian plight must also include all regional countries and factions. We shouldn't exclude any neighboring country or faction, as is expected to happen in the next few days in the so-called International Conference on Palestine.
The success of any Arab effort or initiative to bring the Palestinians together depends on certain internal factors, including rebuilding confidence and seriously seeking solutions that are acceptable to all sides. For Madar Program, Osama Abbas, Abu Dhabi Channel, Khartoum.
Osama Abbas, قناة أبو ظبي، الخرطوم.
Syria is preparing to enforce the gradual lifting of subsidies of oil product prices in an attempt to reduce the budget deficit, which represents 5% of the gross national product. The official subsidy of oil products runs at $15 million per day, $7 billion annually, 60% of the public budget. The reason behind this bill and the Syrian public's response in the following report.
These days, Syrian citizens are living at the mercy of a government decision to cancel subsidies on energy products after undertaking careful studies which warned that continued government subsidies will lead to catastrophic effects on the national economy. The government reiterated that its subsidies of oil products cost the state budget nearly $15 million a day, and that next year, this number will reach $7 billion a year, or nearly 60% of the state's budget.
في عام 2008 سوف نستورد 4.8 مليار دولار.
In 2008, we will be importing $4.8 billion of energy products, and this will produce an oil budget deficit of nearly $2.3 billion. We cannot continue like this, and we must not accept it. Also, 500 million liters of diesel are being smuggled out of Syria to Lebanon, even though we offer aid to Lebanon in the amount of $300 million annually.
The government is continuing its environmental campaign, which it launched days ago, to explain the reasons behind its bill before it is implemented in order to contain the public's anger. Meanwhile, many educators, economists, Islamists, and communists are warning about the effects of this bill, which has created increased concerns amongst the public.
Why are they increasing the prices? What is the reason? We are an oil-producing country, thank God the Almighty. Why increase prices? The citizens of this country should be benefiting from the oil revenues.
If the neighboring country's prices are high and the state wants to do the same, first they should clear it by the citizens. It can't be outrageously expensive, like double the price.
The price of everything is rising. Bread, food, drink, and clothing. Everything is going up, not just diesel fuel.
The bill, which will be enforced at the start of next year, will increase the price of a liter of diesel fuel from 7 liras to 12 liras. Gasoline prices will increase from 30 liras per liter to 40 liras. The price of natural gas canisters will rise from 145 liras to 250 liras. To compensate for these increases, the government will offer $240 to every family that will be affected, which will include up to 3.4 million families. By discontinuing the subsidies of oil and energy products, the Syrian government hopes to save more than $1.2 billion annually. This will be enough to cover the suggested compensation. Nouradin Al-Athar, Al-Hayat, LBC, Damascus.
An American Airlines pilot ordered 6 Iraqi passengers to disembark from the aircraft before takeoff. The 6 Iraqis were returning from a training course in Campbell in the United States, and some passengers apparently complained about the men's presence on the plane after hearing them speak Arabic. The airline security at San Diego Airport in California interrogated the 6 men and released them shortly after.
We were coming back from a training course for a United States infantry unit, which is part of the contract between our company that specializes in defense training and the United States government. We were on our way to our homes in Detroit. We boarded the plane, and some of us do not speak English. I do not know why they treated us this way. We actually came to help the Americans.
There was confusion on the plane. They just told us to get off, and so we did. Then I heard that someone was afraid because some of the men were talking in Arabic. It's crazy.
In Jordan, a group of shepherds demonstrated on the government's decision to lift subsidies on livestock feed. Arabiya correspondent said that the demonstrators blocked the road to the airport for several hours. More details with Saad al-Silawi.
A new crisis faces the government of Ma'ruf al-Bakhit, which has witnessed the resignation of 3 ministers. The latest to resign was the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. The current crisis is the result of restructuring subsidies of livestock feed, which moved the shepherds, who mostly belong to Jordanian tribes, to demonstrate by holding up sheep rather than banners. They also blocked the road to the airport for several hours, demanding the removal of the government and the intervention of King Abdullah II to overrule the decision which they described as oppressive.
We call on His Highness the King to reduce the price of barley. Long live the King, and down with the Prime Minister.
A ton of barley used to cost 90 JDs. Now it costs 256 JDs. This is an 80% increase.
Should we become bandits at the sides of the street? No. The person who made this decision will destroy the country.
Through restructuring livestock subsidies, the government aims to save about $50 million in the international budget. This, in turn, will increase the price of meats.
I have raised my daughters and sons, thanks to God and these cattle. I don't have a car. I take the herd to the well and I feed them. I have no other source of income. The herd provides for my home, a camel hair tent made of 6 pieces. I do not have a house or anything else, only God. I appeal only to God and Abu Hussein.
We unblocked the road as a gesture of kindness, as sympathy to the people on the road. Some of them had children or women. Others had sick people. That's the only reason.
The government of al-Bakhit faced many crises, including the shawarma poisoning in al-Baqa area and the pollution of drinking water in Menshiyat bin Hassan, as well as Al-Arab al-Yawm, a newspaper's report that the Prime Minister eavesdrops on phone calls between the ministers and the media. Today is a livestock feed crisis that removed the subsidies on more than 1,350,000 sheep and cattle. Once again, the decisions of al-Bakhit's government provoked protests, this time from the shepherds, most of whom belong to Jordanian tribes that historically supported the monarchy. Yet another crisis for a government that is laden with crises, which might make the king nullify the government's decision, as he did with previous decisions to raise the price of fuel and school fees. Saeed Al-Sawahili, Al-Arabiya Television, Amman.
The funeral processions of Palestinian martyrs never end. A new person is martyred almost every day. They could be activists or just children who have become accustomed to the sounds of Israeli gunshots and military vehicles. Today, 3 Palestinian children, 9, 10, and 12 years old, were martyred in Jabalia, northern Gaza. A member of Izz al-Din al-Qassam brigades was also martyred in Al-Zaytun neighborhood. Meanwhile, 5 people were injured in the West Bank during an Israeli incursion. Asmahan Khouri reports.
This is the story of Palestinian children. Their blood can be shed regardless of their age. Their fate is to live near constant danger. Death can take them away from their mothers, sisters, and fathers at any time. The children that survive are too innocent to even comprehend the danger of the soldiers' guns. For them, guns are only part of a war game. In war games, everyone wins. No blood is shed and no tears are shed. But this is Gaza. It is not a place for children's dreams. Everyone can simply be the next target of the Israeli military machine. And this is the West Bank. For the Israeli soldiers, Qalqilia, Bethlehem, Jenin, and all other cities are just names of different geographic areas.
وهنا الضفة الغربية قلقيلية بيت لحم جنين لا فرق.
They do not even bother to distinguish between people and objects. In their eyes, all Palestinians are legitimate targets because they have decided to resist the occupation. Why not? After all, this gives them the ability to justify their military operations by a few lines in a military statement. If the Israeli soldiers don't shoot Palestinian children and activists, they may empty their guns at people's homes and balconies as a way to get their anger off their chests. They destroy Palestinian homes because they mistakenly believe that the resistance will be weakened. Not a single day passes by without martyrs in Palestine. It's as if all days are the same.
There is nothing as powerful as having the Palestinian children tell their own stories. This is what happened at the 5th Annual Conference for Palestinian Children, which was held in Bethlehem. While the adults discussed ways to increase media coverage of issues pertaining to children, the younger ones simply told their stories and stated their demands. Amani Abu Ghantash reports from Bethlehem.
Palestinian children gather here to express themselves and show their talents. This 5th Annual Conference for Palestinian Children was held in Bethlehem with the title, The Media and Children's Rights. More than 100 children from different areas of the motherland participated in this conference, which was organized by the International Movements for Children's Rights.
The children participated in preparing for this conference, as well as in workshops and in formulating the conference's final statements.
Palestinian children do not only throw stones at the occupier, they also want to live a normal life.
In addition to workshops, the conference offered many contests to demonstrate children's abilities in different areas. This time, the children were given a chance to reflect on the way that they were covered in the media. They told their own stories and expressed their views and messages.
Yes, I'm a child, but I can still speak out and convey my opinion. I play the role of Sasan. She is a real character. She is not fiction. There are many children like her.
I want to express myself to other children and parents. I want adults to give children the right to express themselves.
Palestinian children were confined to this media image, but this conference offered a contest of short films to show the other side of these children.
I came up with this idea to tell people about my life as a Palestinian child who lives in a refugee camp.
The children expressed their satisfaction with the opportunity to contribute in a tangible way and make their voices heard. Amani Ghantash, Dubai TV, Bethlehem.
بيت لحم.
Iraqi officials and the US military have given a cautious welcome to the announcement by Shia cleric Moqtada al-Sadr that his Mahdi army will halt its activities. The militia has been a thorn in the side of all Iraqi governments since Saddam Hussein was toppled from power. And now the most recent accusations against the group link it to fierce fighting that killed 52 people during a religious festival in the south. Bernard Smith reviews the militia's role over the past 4 years.
The Pentagon has called the Mahdi army the greatest threat to peace in Iraq. And now its leader, Moqtada al-Sadr, appears to be losing influence over some of the tens of thousands of men who are attached to his militia. The Mahdi army appeared after the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003. Al-Sadr used it to launch a series of uprisings against the Americans. This was in their stronghold of Sadr City in October 2004. But then al-Sadr agreed to work with the Washington-backed government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. That cooperation lasted until April, when 5 of al-Sadr's followers resigned from the cabinet. They're demanding a resolution setting a timetable for US troop withdrawal. Al-Sadr disappeared from view for about 4 months during a security crackdown by Iraqi and US troops. He reappeared in May with a fiery anti-American speech delivered to thousands of followers. Emerging from the ruins of post-invasion Iraq, Moqtada al-Sadr's family had long been victims of Saddam Hussein's repression. Al-Sadr's ties to Iran are complex. He's linked to religious figures there, but he also strongly proclaims his Arab roots. His Mahdi army is estimated to have up to 50 to 60,000 fighters. It's feared they're now splintering into different groups. This week's clashes in Kabul seem to have helped convince al-Sadr that now is the time to try and reassert control over his sprawling militia. Fighting between the rival Shia groups of the Mahdi army and the Badr Brigade forced thousands of pilgrims to flee Shia Islam's 2 holy shrines. More than 50 people were killed. But parts of the Mahdi army have disobeyed orders before, so what happens over the next few days and weeks will show how much respect al-Sadr still commands. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
A document claiming to be Israel's terms on which final status negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians can begin was leaked to the media. The Bush administration has decided to sponsor a conference in November to realize the president's vision of a two-state solution. The saber-rattling between Syria and Israel has suddenly stopped. Are these signs of hope for the Middle East? Or will this be another dose of false expectations? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
After several years of refusal to bring serious attention to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the Bush administration has decided to sponsor a conference in November to realize the president's vision of a two-state solution. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert have been conducting bi-monthly meetings, while negotiators on both sides have been behind the scenes frantically drafting an agreement that addresses a final peace deal with Israel. Most recently, a document claiming to be Israel's terms on which final status negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians can begin was leaked to the media. The document looked at the possible borders between Israel and a future Palestinian state, saying Israel would withdraw from large sections of the West Bank and return to the 1967 borders with some reciprocal modifications. At the same time, in a surprising move, the saber-rattling between Syria and Israel has suddenly stopped. Officials from both countries have been denying reports of a possibility of war erupting between them after a tense period of military movement and training exercises in the Golan Heights. The Israeli media has reported that Ehud Olmert sent a secret message to Assad, stating that Israel would return the Golan Heights in exchange for a comprehensive peace agreement, which would include the severing of Damascus's alliance with Iran and terror groups in the region. Meanwhile, the US has solicited the help of Saudi Arabia to sit side by side with the Israelis at the conference table in November. The Saudi participation is no coincidence, since the United States is readying a multi-billion-dollar military deal for them, and it needs congressional approval, which will not come without Israel's approval. For its part, Saudi Arabia has been looking for ways to counter Iran's growing influence in Iraq, in Lebanon through Hezbollah, and in Gaza through Hamas. Israel is Iran's enemy. The enemy of an enemy begins to look like a friend. With all this maneuvering ahead of the US-sponsored conference, many are wondering if this is just a desperate attempt by the Bush administration to repair the damage that has been inflicted by the war in Iraq, or is it a bold step to change the Israeli-Arab equation? Regardless of the intentions, the prospects of success are very slim. Ehud Olmert is an unpopular Israeli prime minister. He was recently described by a Likud representative as a prime minister with zero public support, who is ready to divide Jerusalem and allow it to be destroyed to save his skin. The Palestinians are also split. Mahmoud Abbas has lost control of the Gaza Strip to Hamas and lacks the ability to deliver on any agreement signed with the Israelis.
They do not want the Islamic model represented by the Islamic resistance of Hamas to succeed in governing.
Also, the Syrians are not ready to give up Hezbollah and view Iran as the new power in the region after the US withdraws from Iraq. Will this be just another conference in the region full of great expectations, but with little hope for a solution? I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic. Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani, producer of the show you've just been watching. I'm here to tell you that thanks to viewers like you, we've already raised over 10% of our Mosaic fundraising goal. We are getting closer to keeping Mosaic on the air for the rest of the year. However, we still have a long way to go to keep this kind of reporting free and uncensored on Link TV. Over the past few days, you've heard from some of our biggest supporters, people like Amy Goodman, Dr. James Zogby, and Sandeep Roy. They came out because they believe in what Mosaic brings. Now we're asking you to do your part. Call 1-866-485-8848 and make your donation today. Or go to linktv.org and just click on the support button. Every donation makes a difference. For a $200 donation, we can continue to send you one more show online and by podcast. For a $400 donation, we can produce another Mosaic Intelligence Report. Or for a very generous tax-deductible $1,000 donation, you can join the Mosaic Producer Circle. You'll get to tour the studios, meet the staff, and see firsthand how this Peabody Award-winning show is made. Pick up that phone and call 1-866-485-8848 or go online to linktv.org. We need to hear from you before the summer is over to keep Mosaic going. I'm confident that with your support, we will reach our goal. Mosaic simply cannot happen anywhere else. I have made more than 1,400 episodes of Mosaic and never had to censor anything because of threats from advertisers, corporate underwriters, or the administration. That's because at Link TV, the bottom line is you, the viewer. Mosaic represents freedom of speech, the power of information, and access to uncensored news. In this time of war, these things are needed more than ever. Call Link TV now at 1-866-485-8848. Go to linktv.org. Thank you for your commitment and for making Mosaic part of your life.
Mosaic needs your support. Help us reach our goal to raise $200,000 by the end of the year to keep Mosaic on the air. Pledge your gift today at 1-866-485-8848 or linktv.org. Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.